Hello, everybody. This is Jay with Behind the Grind, the Professional GM Chronicles. I am blessed today to have Org join us today for a interview. He has taken time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about his tricks and trades and experiences of being a professional GM. It's going to be hopefully educate. Well, I know it's going to be educational. It's going to be enlightening, and it's always a opportunity for us to be able to glean things out of other people's insights. So, with that being said, I'm going to make sure that you are aware to forge an alliance, like this video, share it with your party, and subscribe, especially if you like this content. Org, thank you so much for coming with or joining us today. So,
Thanks for having me. It's great.
I'm excited.
Looking forward to it.
Org, like I said, is located north of the American border, and he is got his own community up there, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about some of the things that are going on in his life and what he's gotten involved with. So, Org, if you would mind, take a little bit of time and tell us about yourself.
Well, I hope you have a few hours because I've been, I don't know, like most people, I would say we just, in the 90s, 92, 94 maybe. That's probably where I started getting introduced to role-playing game in general. Uh, Later on, it became mostly D&D. But I've seen all sort of genre and like g- game master and all sort of crazy things. Weekends in a camp in the middle of the wood for 48-hour game kind of thing, and started GMing in the middle of that, and it kind of stayed my whole life, but always like a few years off. Sometime come back to it. Sometime life just makes it hard. Sometime to keep in touch with players, and it's one shots of fun, but real campaigns are unbeatable in my opinion. So with the explosion of the online easy access that everybody can have now, and I always knew that D&D at some point would explode. And I bet I probably was some of the top, I don't know, 1,000 people who started to actually look into like, how do I play D&D online? How do I make it simple enough for anybody to get in and get a sense of being sitting around a table like we all grew up to. Now the experience, I think, is very different than before. I think we are shaping it. All the old school, me, you, all the one that's been around the communities that are building the communities. We are deciding of the future of it. It's not Wizard of the Coast. It's us, like it always was. So that's why I keep always coming back, and I like creating communities,
Mm-hmm.
trying to bring people into their own bubbles, but let's make it a group bubble. Let's have an adventure, and yeah, that's pretty much. Always was kind of a dream when I was young to like. I wish I could make games for a living, or
Mm-hmm.
create a board game, create my own game book, my own. But it was always like, that's just a dream. So I never thought it was really possible, and it's been a very fun experience to realize that yeah, I can do that. I could do that. So that's pretty much where I am right now. I'm in the middle of it. It's been 3 or 4 years that I'm a little bit more into it, that I'm trying to build something around it. So yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Dude, that's fantastic, man. There's a lot of people who can't say that, and that's awesome that you're able to be a part of this and in the construction of it. So, how long have you been a game master now?
Well, I'm 44 years old, so I would say almost 30 years in and out, I will say. Yeah, I pretty much, as soon as I've learned how to play and how much people wanted to play more than being game master,
Mm-hmm.
I just went for it. It was like either that or we won't play. So, oh, it's not gonna be as fun as I could make it. I always felt like I could make it better without, not enjoying my time as a player. But I always knew that that was gonna be my thing,
Do you remember the first game that you
gaming.
ran, and how did it go?
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
I think
years.
I made my own game was I was like maybe 13 or 14. I remember I called it Supreme. That was the name of the year. And I don't remember much about it, but I remember that I preferred trying to do my own thing than trying to learn three books and you know I knew that it wasn't the important part to me and to the people I played. They didn't care as long as they roll dice and fight and have adventure. Whatever you use didn't matter to me. So I think that's why I don't remember. That was at school during lunchtime kind of thing. We have well 3 or 4 days a week. We just go in there and wreck each other with dice. And so it's been like that. And then every now and then in 94, 95, we started to like, all right, in a month, let's do like a camping weekend and we'll just go nuts and three master playing three sessions at the same time, mixing it up. And it never turned so good, but then we always had a lot of fun.
Very cool. That's awesome. What in your experience has been your most memorable campaign, and what about it made it stand out to you?
I have too many, to be real.
Fair.
I have too many. I had too many campaigns and groups of different people, and to remember really specific one. I have little scenes that I remember from some that are always gonna stay with me. One of them that it told me how almost like how you tell a story, how you bring a moment to life in people's mind. And that was a big bang, and it wasn't a big thing. I was playing. We had a group, maybe 4 or 5 players,
Hmm.
and every now and then, outside of the regular time session we had, if I had a few hours with one of them, we would just play one on one in the same campaign, like a side track. And I
Right.
had this girl that was pretty much her first D&D experience. She had a few sessions before, but she never really got into it as much as the other players were into it. And I mean, especially back then, it was only dudes, you know. She was
Yes.
one of the girl that like, I want to try that. It looks fun, you know. And she was really cool, really. And it wasn't even D&D. It was an old French game from France called Inomis Satanisme. That was a crazy name, and that was like in a set. The setting was like a modern, present kind of day, and you had like the good and the bad in a fight forever. So demons against angels, and so the group. So she had a she was some kind of demon, and she was her demon master was a fire-based element kind of thing,
Hmm.
and like typical horn and hooves and fire breathing kind of thing. And she had a mission in her side track, and she had to go. She went in time to go in the past and block like a pope from giving a blessing to kind of a knight, that if she could stop that, they would win. Like she would beat the whole organization that was against them in the present. It
Hmm.
was kind of the thing. So sh in her game, she just saw the church, and there was that kind of celebration going, and she knew exactly that in about as soon as the sun is at the top, the blessing's gonna be happening. She has to keep that from happening. So she went to the door, just slammed the two doors open. The whole church turned around, looked at her. The Pope with the knight kneeling in front of him is there, and he's about to do the blessing. And she just started running. She's gunning for him. She just, whatever happened, I don't care. I just go. And she had a special power given by her demon prince. She could take the form of a demon, and it took a few rounds to go. So I'm looking at her like, all right, I'm kind of trying to let her know like that's suicide. Like
Hmm.
you're gonna be crossing soldiers, crossbows, like everybody's gonna go after you. And she didn't even want to hear it. I don't care. I just start running as fast as I can, and I start my transformation. So first round, the hooves start to come out as she's running. She gets 2, 3 arrows. She blocked one of them. She got hurt a little bit. She's still good. Second round, she keeps running. Now the horn is starting to grow. She's starting to move to blow up as she's getting the smoke starting to come in, and I got really into it. So I could see in her eyes she was in it. She was in it. Third round, she gets attacked, and now she's a full form demon, and she's about to be on him. And she does her first attack. I didn't even do an initiative or anything like that. Just the scene made it obvious that everybody was such in shock and like, what are we doing? That nobody had time to really, besides shooting at her. And like, she has one life. She has one life. I didn't fudge anything or it happened that she could have been dead right there. But on the third round, when she got to him, she had one life. She does her attack. She gets a freaking critical. Like you can't make that up, man. You can't.
No,
That was crazy, man. She had kids in the house. She had a few little boys, and even them started to understand what was going on. And when she got the 20, when she got that critical, the whole house started to scream. So I just went pretty gore and nuts on the actual scene that happened after that. But I didn't even do the damage. I let her throw the damage, but this guy was dead. Like, whatever number she would have come up, that was done. She took him, lifted up above her head, pierced him with the horn, threw him in the side, and as it all happened, then she died. She just died. Like, too much sword and hammers and arrows killing her off. But the last thing she did as a bonus action, she could, anything that is around her, I think 6 feet or something like that, like a small circle that can burns. It just lights up. As she dies, the fire just, and it's an old church made of wood, and like, so the whole thing went down. And as she goes down, and she has a special ability that she gets healed by fire slowly. It's not like a healing potion, but so after the whole thing went down, that there's only ashes and it's still burning a little bit, a nice, naked, beautiful girl shakes off the ashes and just walks away. In the sun, like a movie.
Oh,
that was
my
the
goodness.
first real game scene that I could see, and I'll never forget this one. But like, after that, there's been, I don't know, maybe 1,000 scenes that I feel were close to it. But I feel it's almost like like they say for people that shoot themselves. The first one is the one, the first big rush that you do something is the one that's
stick
true.
with you.
It's so true.
That's gonna
Yeah,
stick
it's
with
gonna
you.
stick with you.
Um,
Yep.
if you don't mind, what inspired your approach to game mastering when you first started, or especially us being as old as we are? Do you have any like heroes? Do you have any influences that's helped you develop you into the game master you are today?
I would say Tolkien for sure.
Okay.
Lord of the Ring. That whole. I never liked reading when I was young until I got into those fantasy world. I never got into Harry Potter for some reason. Maybe I was a little bit older when it came out and was just not my stitch. But like I had the same craziness and love about Tolkien that I see the kids having with Harry Potter and the whole. It's same kind of. And I'm from a family of old timer that tell stories. They like to tell story, and sometimes they tell the same story, but it's never quite the same one. Or there's always a little bit, and make something sound. Take something that is so like nothing and make it sound like it's extraordinary. That's something that I'm fascinating with. Like I know some people that can talk about an apple on the corner of the table and you will drink his words just the way he brings it. And so that's something I always wanted to recreate when I tell a story.
Say storytellers definitely have a gift.
Yeah, well, I've been to stages, like the kind of players. You all see like the top 10 kind of players around the table, like the one that likes to crunch the number, the one that's likes to break the game, the one I've been through all the same stages, but game master wise, like I've did game like way over. You have to do what's the temperature today? What's okay? You have to eat. You have to drink. To the complete opposite. I've tried to play in every extreme that I could, and that's how I ended up with kind of a good. I tried to have a good balance between all of it. Like, if a player likes to crunch number, I'll give him numbers to crunch. You know, like most of the time, players do the thing on their own. You just have to give them the opening, the bubble to do it.
And
So, yeah.
that makes sense. It does. Well, let's sidestep a little bit here, and let's talk about your philosophy of game mastering. Okay. How do you balance a narrative? How do you balance narrative storytelling with player agency? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a hard one. That's, I think it's at the base of it, of the whole thing. Cause, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that too. I'm sure you've did it too. We all did. You start a campaign and you start putting time and creativity on something to try to create something, and then you get kind of you lose yourself in the sense that you don't have anyone to show it, and you don't want to use your players and force them into a story that they might not be interested to. You have to bring them there kind of organically,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that took me a while to get to be able to give more place to the player and give more well, agency is the exact word that is. Oh, give me a second here. I'm losing you on the.
Oh.
Okay. Most players, like you're gonna have some that are super extrovert, and you don't have to give them much for them to just go on. But some others are really, really hard. You can tell that they have a whole thing going in their story for their character, but they don't necessarily know how to bring it to the rest of the tables and teach them to share the exploit. Teach them to, losing is fun, sometimes more than winning. It's not about winning, it's about how you get
Oh
to the
man,
place where you
there's
could win.
nothing like having that glorious death. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Something that there's no other games that do that.
it's true. Um, what do you think, as a game master, should you prioritize the story, the rules, or the player's enjoyment, and why? Especially given that you're dealing as a professional GM with players that are paying you. Where's your priority lie?
Well, as far as I was, oh, sorry about that. I was on the fence. Sorry, I have to take my dog in. I was in the fence for a long time about the whole charging for DMing. I'm sure you've seen it too.
Yes.
And I'm still on the fence for a lot of it. In a way that in the best of the best world, I could take 25 players a week and have them play a 3 hours session, enjoy the game. But it's so much time. It's so much brain power. It's so much organization. It's so much, and nobody can. So I think now we are at the point in most communities where it's accepted. Some people will never need to do that. They have their crew for years. They have friends that they can meet up every week. But to expect a GM to give you a 9 months adventure every weekend, a stranger on Discord that you never met, like, people are starting to understand that is no AI can do it yet, and I don't think AI will be that good at it for a long time.
Oh, I agree with that.
Like, I'm all for it. If you can find an AI that can DM and give an experience as good as I was giving, that I feel that I was giving to my player, I'll give him the flame. Thank you for doing this, and let's play now. Like we don't need a guy that takes everything on his shoulder anymore to make sure everybody has fun. Because that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. But then you start getting paid, but that's even more pressure because then you're like, oh, they're gonna expect like the best. They're gonna expect like voices and like the perfect always, and it's never gonna be. Like it's never gonna be. So I right now I'm actually not doing it. It's been almost a year that I haven't charged, and I haven't played much Dungeon and Dragon at all because I wanted to experience it. I did it, and I was pretty like I did good with it. I did good with it. It's not like I don't know anybody that could do only that by itself. You would need to do some kind of content, YouTube, Twitch, live. Then maybe you can. But just that, even if it's impossible. Nobody would pay, you know, $200 each a month to be able to play that. You don't like it's too much. So I would try to. I was trying to offer a good session for about $10. About a little bit less than going to the cinema and such like that. And then I found start playing. At first, I did it like just by myself, with Discord and PayPal, but then it's a nightmare because you have to, run after like, you didn't pay me this week, and like I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to interact with my player in that sense. I want to be the GM, and that's it. Start playing, made it possible. I'm sure you heard about it.
Yes.
And I think they're great. I really respect what they're doing. And that's where I got most of my player and where I've learned about dealing with customer because they're customer at that point. You can't. But I realized after a few sessions that the best player that I had came from there because they know how much investment the GM will do, and they are happy to give you a $5 or $10 for a session easily without running, and be sure that you have other players that have the same interest, at least as much as him, because they're ready to pay as well, and it helps a lot of the no show.
Mm-hmm.
They will show, like they will be there.
If they got the
They're
money in
paying
it,
for
you're
They will
right.
be there.
Okay.
Like personally, I will always reimburse guys because it still happens from time to time.
Sure.
And I will always reimburse and not take the money unless it really like keep the money. I really don't care. Like some people just can't afford it and you just don't care. And I was trying to combine the revenue I was getting from that with a revenue from Twitch. So I started to stream all my games as long as the players were good with it, and that was a whole other world to learn. Like I never had done that before, so game mastering plus trying to keep control of what's going on in the Twitch and make sure it's coming out fine, and like that was too much. It was just too much. So that's why I stopped at the end. I had to focus on other things. But I want to come back to it, and I don't want to charge anymore. I want to go back to just be a few crews that know each other after a few sessions, that are just there to have fun. Half of them on our show, fine, we'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. But I want to do revenue from Twitch instead, if I can find. And what I started with Twitch, now I'm doing all sort of other gamings too, and like GTA and Elden Ring, and the best people that are watching me right now are all old players that I had on the indies. I want to give them back something to that. Like they've been encouraging me since the beginning. They've been paying me to DM first. They sub to my stuff. They sometimes like, hey, I'm going live. Well, I can't, but I'm gonna have you in the background just to help you out. I'm not there, but at least you get the ads and the stuff. So I want to get back to focus more that.
That's fascinating
And
itself. That really is. It's
yep,
interesting that like I said, you've done it for a while. You're kind of getting away from things, and you had your reasons, but you have some other alternatives, and that's actually really cool. That's very interesting.
yep, yep,
Oh,
yep. It's gonna take longer before I can do real revenue from it,
mhm.
but it's gonna be a more laid back, less stressful. More like just friends around the table, like it always was.
That's cool. That is cool. Okay, so when you're talking about the games that you run, how do you create that sense of immersion? How do you get the kids, or not the kids? How do you get the players to really buy in on your game?
Well, something that I found is the between the session is very important for the players' excitement about what's coming. So like the basic TV show, Star Trek episode,
Mm-hmm.
a little beginning, a nice middle, and a nice place to cut at with the da da da. What's gonna happen next week? The simplest form. Keep it basic. It always works. It always even the people that know it's gonna be like that, they still get into it, and it keeps it so simple. It doesn't need to be much most time. So usually I kind of shape in my head. Okay, in 3 hours I have a session's coming. I just think about it. I don't take much note. I improvise a lot of it. Uh, okay, we stopped at this situation last week. I'm gonna always kind of try to start with like a nice little. I always have like a background music going in my
Mm-hmm.
Discord, and I have a few sound like a big monster started to scream in the background. Just little things like that, just to keep it a little bit of interactive. Like my player at the end, they knew like if I put a new map up on my how do you fantasy I use fantasy ground when I
Mm-hmm.
play online. If a new map comes up and a song start, well, the feeling that the song gives them, that's what's coming right now. They always know. So if there's a very gothic metal song starting, like, all right, shit's gonna go down, guys. Get ready. Like something's coming. And they kind of knew how to recognize and I like to give them something to recognize, to know, like, okay, now it's a situation like that. Sometimes I like to go from totally ridiculous situation to totally serious one as well. And I got very good at giving the players the right cue for them to understand, like, okay, maybe now I should shut up a little bit and let this player shine a bit more, and without having to have to tell them directly. Like they understand that the focus is on this guy now. It's gonna come to you at some point, and I keep it simple, like cartoonish simple most time. I don't want to go too deep into story, into emotion sometime, because you never know when you're gonna get to a subject that might shake someone a little bit too much,
Sure.
like the personal line of someone.
They're triggers. Yes.
Uh, Yeah, so it's not something that I try to push too much. The line is hard to find some groups, that you can say whatever you want. It could happen anything you want, and they're not gonna keep it against you or against any other players. There's hit and miss with everything, but you know that there's other group that you have to put a little bit more, a better touch to it, to not go, you know and also recognize and give a cue to a player that is pushing the line too much, to bring them back without making a scene out of it, without making them like feel like they shouldn't be there, or so I do a lot of okay, let's cut to the next scene now, like we all know where you're going right there, that's fine, let's just go. And I never encourage, of course, discord between them too much. I try to, but I always make sure I I I make them clear to them that it's a group thing, and if we can't go together as a group, as a story, we're gonna have to maybe make some change. Maybe some people are gonna have to adjust their attitude, and so every 3 or 4 sessions usually, there's something that's gonna happen that I have to, bring back the tension down a little bit, or if something happened between two players, or one player takes too much decisions for the rest of the group, you have, and usually it takes someone who's usually when people start playing with me after 2 or 3 sessions, I don't have any problem with them ever again after that. Like they got into the groove, and I think only I've tried to count like when I was charging with start playing how many players I had. I think I have interacted with something around 250 players in a few months, in a year, in about a year. Only one of them I had to okay, that's too much, man. I just can't have you anymore, and I felt terrible for it, but I had to, like, it was ruining everybody's experience, but he would always come back, but everybody else I would lose. So that wasn't paid or not, it's not something you want to have.
No, I totally understand that. Yeah, it makes total sense. Okay, so this is the most controversial question that you can run into during this interview. And the question is, what is your stance on fudging dice rolls?
Nobody does that. I used to
Okay.
I used to tell my players sometimes, well, this fight actually, if I had not fudged the dice, you'd be dead. Don't do that.
Right.
That's a mistake. They might know you do, but don't tell them when you do. And sometimes I would shake dice and not even look at. I would just shake dice to make them. Oh, what's going on? I don't know. I just give me a sec, guys. I will like look at fake shapes and like open a book with nothing. I don't need anything in that, but just 2 minutes to give them, and I would think I like what's going on and stuff.
Buying time.
I don't try to fudge dice unless I really have to. And what I mean by really have to is for a pike event, for the finishing of a boss, for how many of them like I don't go, like I don't even, sometimes I don't even give HPs to my NPCs. You just got him like a really good sword, but I don't feel like he should die right now. He's just not dead. So I don't fudge the dice, I just fudge everything else around the dice. Like my boss HP could triple his HP in one round if I decide that it's what it should have been on, like, and
To make a challenge.
yeah, and I never had anybody like at all like arguing with any of the dice or the fudge. Like most players actually prefer when I hide my rolls because they don't want to know if I fudge or if I don't fudge, or like. Well, and I don't actually do it often, but I don't mind doing it at all. At
That
all.
makes sense. Yeah, you got to
I don't
use your
think.
judgment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's shift over to crafting worlds and narratives. Specifically, when you were talking about world building in your campaign, do you build top down or bottom up? In other words, you have a map there and you start here, or when we're talking about bottom up, you start in this town, village, and you kind of expand your map out there. For somebody that does a lot of improvisation, as you described, how do you handle that?
Well, for the first few years that I dungeon master, before it became more serious for me, and I always try to go from top to bottom, and I think it's
Okay.
generally what most game masters start with, because they want to forge a world complete, you know, and then there's so many things you have to add to it, and then you've been in this world for months in your head, and then you have 2 hours to make that, to give that feeling of that world to those players. It's too much. It's too much. You're gonna bore them to death. Even if you're the best storyteller ever, you're gonna bore them to death. They want to shake dice. They want to die. They want to win. They want to kill monster. They want to have fun together. But it's really hard to do both. You can't do both only. You have to do a mix of a little bit of it, a little bit of that. So I've stopped. I totally stopped building those huge world. Uh, I don't know how many times I had players make their character and didn't even know how the game would start. I had no clue, no clue. I always go with the classic. You're in a tavern, you're in a town, you're in a small thing, and the town is called that. And there's this nice lady that is asking you where you're from, and so I try to build a world with them. I always tell my player, at any time, you can always tell me, like, for example, you're in this town and you're talking with the barkeeper, and you tell him, "Hey, barkeeper, I actually have a cousin who lives here, and do you know her?" Always say yes, but we all heard
Yes,
that.
that's
Yes,
right.
but no, but I
Yes.
always try to keep that in mind. So my some players don't understand what you mean by that. Some players just don't have that gear that say, "Oh, I can invent stuff and bring it to this world." But some players do. Like some players will jump on that so naturally that you just gotta you're just gonna go for it and it's gonna feel natural. Like maybe the other players will think that this city that he's talking about actually existed in my world. Like maybe he knows like most of the time. So I always start from the down up.
Got it.
Always. Unless I do a pre-made adventure, and
Oh,
so
then
those
it
I
doesn't
try to
matter.
stick to
Yeah.
the lore.
Got it.
So I don't create my own big world, but I like using Forgotten Realm as a background world for a lot of my adventure. I like taking worlds that are already existing because it's easier to have the players connect to them. Because if they want in a between session, if they want to go look at some lore about Forgotten Realm, well, they know that if they bring it back to my game next week and they talk about something, well, it's in this world. So it's an easier way to connect with uh, with players, and I don't think I'm enough of a writer and a story builder to believe that I'd be able to pull it off because I've seen so many great world like the Middle Earth, like World of Warcraft, like
Hmm.
D&D, Forgotten Realm, all those worlds, and there's so much there already to go. I'm too critic of myself, and I know I wouldn't be able to do it as good as them, and I prefer to enjoy their world, bring it to life in my own ways to
Totally fair. And
players.
that actually, you're not the first person to say that. So that's actually really,
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
All right.
I think we get to that kind of, to that thing after a long time doing it.
How do you create memorable NPCs?
Improv,
Okay.
always improv. A lot of improv. Uh, Usually, when I know that okay, the players are gonna get to this point, to this situation, to this location, I need to pass information to them. I make a list of NPCs. Making NPCs for me is, I don't know. There's seven of them, seven names, seven ages. So how old are they? What are they doing in this town? And that's it.
Mm.
Then I make a separate sheet of information with what I want to pass on to the players, and then I just wait. I throw them in there, and I wait. Oh, they're going to the tavern first. Well, the tavern keeper. I try something. I just go with a crazy voice and quirk, a little bit of a quirk. It needs to be simple because you always have only a few seconds, and you don't need much for a character to connect with an NPC. So if in your mind you're like, all right, they can only get this information if they talk to that spacey, to that NPC. But it happened that one of the players just like fall in love with the donkey that is outside. How do I get the donkey to be the NPC that's gonna give them
Boy.
the that's how I try to go about it. So maybe the donkey is the donkey of a wizard that has disappeared 3 days ago, and then the donkey start talking, but only one of them can hear it. So like everybody's like, yeah, this guy, like, and right there you're starting a story
Mhm.
because I've waited for the player to connect with an NPC first. I don't want them to know that because then they're gonna make me nuts because they're gonna go talk to the first. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yep.
gonna always fall in love with the weirdest NPC you're gonna give them, and so I just I let it go. But I think it makes like I remember one time they fought a little kind of an ice goblin element thing. I can't remember. It was kind of an elemental, but it was really like he would hide and attack them and go back. And every time one of them would hit him or something, he would just like start swearing in French and go crazy. You know how the French swear, so nobody understand what you say, but they know you're swearing, and they freaking fell in love with the guy. And it became the fifth player. Like that was my NPC that just kept coming with them. He thought he was the villain, evil bad of the game in his mind. That little guy was like the master puppet of the whole thing, and the player knew, and they loved it. They loved him, and that thing wasn't written anywhere. That was for Icewind Dale, the pre-made adventure of Icewind Dale. So that little ice demon became so important to them. Like he's the one who they got all the information from him. They like we had whole sessions just sitting around a campfire and just go crazy with that little guy. So keep it simple. Give them a little quirks. If you can do voice, good, but you don't have to. Like players will enjoy when you can do like, and sometimes you're gonna find a voice that you didn't know you had. So you gotta give yourself some space to improvise, and everything is about hit and miss. If you feel like, well, they're not connecting with this one, they look like they really hate him. Well, play on that. Make them hate him more. People love to hate, so use that if you have to for a good NPC. And it becomes natural after doing it for enough, I think, for long enough.
Fair.
Like I've never been an actor or a voice actor or anything like that, but I know some of them came out really good, and I'll never be able to do it again. Like I just hope that another time I'll be able to pull out something out of my hat like that.
Very cool. All right. Let's pivot again. Let's talk about some pro GM questions. And these are questions that people like me want to hear from people like you that have actually done this for a living. What does a day in a pro GM look like?
Well, no over prep. Over prep will kill everything you try to put in. I would have a schedule. I started with one group and had a few people joining, and I try. So before we talked about, it's how important it is the between session to keep an excitement for what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's even more important when you have players that are paying for it, because the big fun about going to a game is the fun of waiting for the next one. Like the thrill of like, I can't wait next week.
Absolutely.
Like I'm almost dead, and like the boss has his sword around above my head, and like we don't one shoot or dice, and we start with that. That's gonna be crazy. So bring back to that, So once a week, at least once a week, 2 or 3 days before the session, I would send a little group message, like maybe just a meme of a sword ready to maybe just a little sound bite, just a little to remind that I don't forget, guys, when we stopped last week, like I don't know how it's gonna go. It's gonna be crazy. Anything. I found that it was like one of the best tool I had to make sure they show up first, and that they're happy to be there, that they're waiting for the next one, that they're excited about what's going on, and at the same time, when I would be done like that 2 or 3 days before, I would go over the sheet. I make sure I forgot this guy didn't know how to use that. I'm gonna try to, like just to give me a little kind of checklist of what I want to cover a little bit during the next session, and I just write myself how do you call like a TV show script. Like, okay, introduction, we're there. I'm gonna do that. Okay, now what's gonna happen in the middle? And where do I think I want to end that? Where do I think that the episode's gonna be done for today? And attach and give a link to the next session. What can we expect? You always have to give them something to expect for next session. Always keep them on the toe, and it takes maybe 20 minutes, half hour to do that, and you could over prep for hours and hours, and you wouldn't get the same. You wouldn't even be able to touch that to like they don't most of them don't care about what's going on in your big story and your big movie, and they just want to shake dice. Just give them that, like a little something that you know is gonna poke at them,
Well, you're giving them what they
maybe
want. So.
maybe yeah. Sometime I would make like record a little sound bite with the voice of one of the NPC from last week and just stun them, like and they would love that. They would love it. So yeah.
All right, let me ask you another question. Has your perspective changed in the way that you enjoy GMing for your friends versus being a professional GM?
That's such a good question. Such a good question. You have to be able to forget about the fact that you are truly charging people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are paying for a service, but they're paying for an experience more than a service, in my opinion. And you cannot give the experience that you are aiming at if you keep that in mind all the time. You can't use the fact that they're paying for it to say like, all right, I have to give them the perfect experience. It's gonna end up after a few weeks. That group, you have to feel like it's same as your friend sitting in a table, because that's what happened. If you try to keep it too professional, you're putting a wall between you and them.
Okay.
You gotta be able to break that. You gotta be able to keep that wall down and have them. And that's how I've tried to see it. The first few months I did it, I wouldn't sleep at night sometimes because like, oh, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? Like, I shouldn't have done that. He's probably not gonna come back next week. And like, forget about all that bullshit. Like, it's bringing you down. Don't think about that. Give them as much as you would want to give to your friend. You
Awesome.
want your friend to have a good experience? Give your players a good experience. They're all your friend. They're all there because they choose you. That should be enough for you. That's all the expectation they have. Like, finally, I have a DM that's gonna be there every week. That's gonna give me some of his time and some of his focus on my enjoyment of the game.
All right.
And it's a lot easier than it sounds after you are able to do it.
Fair.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to go to the role of the online TTRPG community and the Pro GM. In this case, you. Before we do that, though, I just want to remind everybody to make sure you forge an alliance, like the video, share it with the party, and subscribe.
On pousse le bouton.
All right, so there's no denying that people like you and other people out there are influencing the TTRPG on the internet, the community, just everywhere. And as you talked about, you try to build your community, especially there in your neck of the woods where you're at. You've got, it sounds like a very active community, just from the research that I did. But what do you think is the biggest challenges facing professional game masters and even game masters in the modern TTRPG community? What's the biggest challenges you see out there right now?
I think the worst that happens to the TTRPG community and the best is Dungeon and Dragon.
Okay.
Because the name is such a big name that it took over everything. There's no space, seems like, for other games. Like when I started, D&D was there, but I was playing Cyberpunk. I played what was it called? Warhammer, and I played like Dark Eye. I played like so many different, and I loved all of them because it's not about the mechanic you use, it's about who you use it with. So I always had fun in any of those, but now it seems that either you're a D&D guy
Mm-hmm.
or you're another guy. It's all of them and D&D, and I don't like that. I love D&D. That's the one I use the most. But I wish there was more than that. That would be like there's a lot. There's so much outside D&D. There's so much, but it's really hard to put a good light on all of them.
It is. You're right.
Uh,
Dungeons and Dragons is
you
definitely
know,
the big daddy out there.
it really is. It really is. Like a lot of people don't even call that role-playing game. They just call it playing D&D,
Hmm.
and that means all of it. So it became like a kind of a term that took over everything. A little bit like those Apple Pro laptop. Like everybody now, it's an Apple. I have an Apple tablet. Like Microsoft must love it. Like it's a little bit. So I hope that will change, and I have a good feeling about it. There's a few names that came out in the last few years. One of them that came to mind is Shadow Dark. I'm sure you heard of Shadow Dark. I haven't played myself, but the community around it is fierce. Like they love this, and the creator of it, she looks amazing. She looks so cool, and the principle of it is simple, and so that's one that I would like to try. And other genre as well, like other time than just fantasy.
Hmm.
Like go to Fallout. I know there's a lot of people playing a Fallout kind of. I would love to do that. Same with Oblivion and Skyrim. Same like I like to take world that already exist and try to bring it back to D&D. I'm personally a little bit, I don't know, feels like I'm getting madder and madder at D&D every week that they take a new weird decision or that something going on. So I'm trying to stay away from it and just use what I like about it. I don't know if you looked up like where it is at now. Do you use D&D
Personally, I use
yourself?
no. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate for a system called point system gaming, and a good friend of mine has spent a couple decades developing it. I've been running it and
Okay.
playing it for the last 5 years. So I'm trying to spread the word as you talk about these, like one of these indie guys
Yeah.
about point system gaming. But last time I played D&D was probably back in the '90s, and that was second edition, and that was a long time ago.
That's the one I became serious about DMing.
Mhm.
Second edition was that's actually where my name Orgulthar. That's where it's from. That was my first wizard elf, and Orgulthar was the elfic Tolkien for powerful mountain, I think, or something like that. And I always kept it the whole time. And it's such a weird name that any games that I want to play, like the name is not taken. It's my name everywhere I go.
It is,
So
without a doubt.
so yeah.
Okay,
All right.
how do you feel about representing the responsibility of representing diversity and inclusion in your games? Uh, how do you feel about diversity and inclusion at your table, as well as like NPCs and PCs in your game? Do you have a feeling on that one way or the other?
Well, the whole inclusivity and diversity, and I feel like kind of got hijacked a little bit in a way that, to me, D&D always was inclusive and diverse, and of course there was a like a big part of it that was little white nerds in the basement and Stranger Thing kind of thing going. We all were, but I don't
Fact.
remember one time that someone like I don't feel like I could play D&D because it's all white people that like I never felt in any of my tables. So it's always touchy because my openness to diversity and it is not the same as someone else, and is not the same as someone else, and is not the same as someone else. And when you get into that and you start looking at it too much, that's all you see. Like
Mhm.
that's all you see. Like maybe they should have a black guy that you know, or maybe there's. So I never. It's not part of my thing. I don't talk about it. Not because I don't want to talk about. Think it. I don't think it's something that matters because it was there before and it's still gonna be there. And it's mostly social media that big clickbait title, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot of it. So I don't try to stay away, but I don't try to get players that are too much into it. I love diversity, but if that's all you are seeing, let's talk again in a few years when you're gonna have think about it and settle down about it. Like like I'll be friend with you. Maybe if you want me to DM for you and a few of your friends, I'll go. But I don't want to have anybody to feel like they have to step on eggshell to make sure that they don't get anybody that they don't say the wrong thing, or they don't like. I want people to be able to not have to think about that and be themselves.
Fair.
And if you start forcing, it's never a good idea, I think. Like, we don't have many example as well in movies or games or whatever you want that it was better necessarily doing that. It made the experience worse for the people that you're trying to give a good experience, and for the people that are trying, it's just doesn't the math doesn't add up. Like, you don't have to. You're complicating things that don't have to be complicated. It's just a game.
I got it. That
So
makes sense.
I'm all for it, but I don't push only for it. Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Got it.
It's
All
fun.
right, so this is the last question, and after this, I want to turn things over to you so you can talk about things that you want to promote and things of the sort. But the last question is this: what's your vision for the future of tabletop RPGs, and how do you see yourself contributing to its evolution?
Communities, the D&D communities, the TTRPG communities is is. I mean, if you compare it to others, it's kind of small, but it's big. Like, we have a big voice. We have a big, like, we've put so much time and money and love into those communities that it's been organically growing. There's no there's no controlling all of those guys. Like, there's no
No.
you can't put them all in the same pot. You can't, like, all everybody have their own thing going. And I'm happy that D&D has been making a lot of mistake in the last few years, that you can tell it shows. Like, you can tell that there's something going on. It's too big. It's too corporate, like,
Yes.
organization, and it's too big. It's too big. Chop it down in smaller thing. Let people use what you give them to make it bigger by organically. And so I'm not worried about it. I don't think it's gonna change as much as people expect it to change. I
Okay.
think it's always gonna go back to the little. We're 4 or 5 friends. We're sitting around a computer or a table, and we just use dice. And stop trying to protect whatever you create, whatever you make, and that you bring to the community. Stop trying to be like, this is mine. I have to make money from it. I have to control the IP. I have to stop. Stop. The one who did that, we don't hear about them 10 year pass. And I'm not sure we're gonna hear about D&D as much in 10 years from now than we did 10 years ago. Because trying to please everyone never please anybody.
That's true. Very true.
I think a lot of people are gonna go back to, let's just all do our own thing. Like, we like double damage when we do a crit. Let's do a crit. We like when you roll a one, like, and like it's a fumble and crit, they call it, or something like
Hmm.
that. I like
That's
that to
right.
happen. Well, let's have it. I want to switch stuff around. Do it. Like, you're the master of your own thing, and the players are find your own ways. What you like about a game, and don't expect other people to tell you what it is. Like, find it for yourself. And I think that's where people go naturally, organically, as they have experience, as they have fun. Like, I have players that I played with 15 years ago that are still remember. Like I always remember that time. Like I have no idea what he's talking about, and then I think, oh yeah, that was really cool. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. But he does. He sure does, and that was an important thing for him in his life. I
Yeah.
remember as well while I was right in the peak of DMing for with Start Playing. A lady on Facebook that came to me and asked me like, I have a son who's on autism spectrum. He's very, very introvert. It's very, very hard to uh, to get excited about anything. But he likes Dungeon and Dragon. He never played, but he watched videos on YouTube and he loves it. He's 14, 15 years old. Do you think you can do something for him? I felt I felt great about it. So I was like, I'll do a one-on-one with him one time. I'm not gonna charge you. I just want to do it for I didn't want to feel like I was taking not advantage, but using
Mm-hmm.
kid, 14 years old kid. So I'm not gonna stream it. I'm not just gonna be me and him. After that session, I didn't know the kid, so I've talked with him for like 15 minutes. We made a character and we just start playing. And to me, it was exactly the same as the thousands of players I had before him. Like he wanted to kill goblins, he wanted to be the heroes of the story, he wanted to save the princess, he wanted to, and like he was very expressive about it, very like explosive about it, and like he was great. His mom called me back crying at the end, like I never seen my kid so invested. I haven't heard him talk like that in like a month.
Org,
Like
that's wonderful,
this is
man. That's
this is
awesome.
crazy what you're doing. So I was like, wow, okay. So the week after, like, if you have so I ended up having like one group that were all a little bit like kids that had a hard time. Like you could tell some of them were bullies, some of them got bullies, some
Mm-hmm.
like and not teach them, but giving them like life experience that maybe they have a hard time dealing with in the real world. Like practicing. Like, if you never had an interview before, it's good to practice with someone that's gonna give. It's same kind of deal, like, and I could tell after 4 or 5 months, like, see them blossoming, like becoming someone that they didn't even know they were. And so I did that for like 3 or 4 months, and because I had to do other things after that, and I had to kind of give up a little bit on D&D for a while, I had to let it go. But it's something that I also made me learn that I could bring the same thing to everybody. Like everybody has that little autism spectrum a little bit, So if you can
I know I do.
let people shine, everybody can take from it. So, yep.
All right. Listen,
Yep.
Org, that's all the questions I've got. If you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about your projects. What kind of things that you might want to plug? What kind of what's going on right now in your life that you want us to know about? And keep in mind, whatever you talk about, when we post this video, we'll make sure we put links to your whatever it
Okay.
is that you want to have
Perfect.
links and stuff like that, so people can see it. So, what's going on?
To be to be real, I don't really have anything to push right now.
Okay.
I have a small community that I've been keeping around since I started the whole thing on Facebook. It's called RPG Nerdiverse. Uh, People can join. It's just a bunch of nerds talking about D&D, whatever stuff, role-playing game. There's a lot of people showing off their things as well, or if they're looking for players, or I let other pro DM as well advertise if they're looking for players. And it's not a huge group. It's not. I'm not a computer whiz or multimedia pro or anything like that. So it's very laid back and basic. It's just me moderating, and it's pretty. We had a few little controversies going on, and people trying to ban other and stuff like that. So I've learned to travel those water slowly as I go. So there's that, and I have a Twitch channel that I've started with D&D that now I do all sort of games and a bunch of friends, and we just hang out and play games. And most of the games that I like are like, Elden Ring and Final Fantasy and all those kind of fantasy RPG game. So it's related to it. And as far as D&D go, I will start. I started last weekend. We started to make characters and stuff, but I'm gonna have a table of new for a new game starting this weekend with a few players. Some of them were players that used to pay me, to DM for them, and some others are gonna be new to it. And I'm just gonna start streaming that again and try to eventually make a little bit of revenue growing the stream, my channel with that. So the name of the channel is Nerdiverse Plays in one word. I stream pretty much every day, but the D&D stuff is Sundays. Sundays is for D&D. But I have a lot of people that come in we just nerd out about D&D or talk about games that we did before while I play Elden Ring and get wrecked by everything that is in front of me. And so yeah, that's gonna be it. Challenge. Well, my Twitch channel, our Twitch channel Nerdiverse Plays, and Facebook uh, RPG Nerdiverse.
We'll make sure we put
I
that
have a
on the.
Discord too. Yeah. I'll give you the link.
Yeah.
And I will be growing a Discord as well eventually. That's gonna be more like raw streamer kind of thing. Because right now it's still very, very just me figuring it out as I'm going.
I'm right there with you right now. All good.
Yeah.
Well, Org, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to let us have this opportunity to pick your brain and offer us some insights. I think there's a lot here that we can definitely glean out of this, so we can learn. But I just can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, Org. I do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was great to be there, and that's a great question. Like, you're a great interviewer, man.
I appreciate that.
I really enjoyed that.
Well, folks, again, like we said before, Forge an Alliance. Like the video and share it with your party and subscribe.
Play some D&D, but play other stuff.
Right, just do it. So, all right, guys. Like I said, we'll get all that information down there for y'all. We look forward to communications, guys. If you got questions for Org, put it on there. Put some comments out there. We love communications. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to spread the love, talk about what he's answering questions you might have. So just get in there, get in with us. If you like this, like I said, guys, spread the word. That's what we're trying to do. So thank you so much for everything, guys. We will see you soon. And God bless.